The evening sun bled red across the horizon, stretching its golden arms over the dry plains of Texas. The dust of the road kicked up in soft clouds as a lone woman trudged forward, her once fine dress now nothing but rags torn at the edges, its fabric soiled from weeks of hunger and wandering. Her hair hung loose and tangled, her face pale from exhaustion, but her eyes, oh, her eyes held a stubborn fire, the kind that told the world she had not given up, not yet. Her name was Clara, and she had once known comfort, once known laughter, once known the softness of family life. But that had all been stripped from her in a whirlwind of tragedy. Her husband had fallen in a mining accident, leaving her with nothing but debts. The landlord had come for the little house, and soon she found herself walking the endless roads with nothing more than a basket to beg for scraps. And it was on this road that she came upon the sprawling gates of the McKenna Ranch, a place known far and wide for its wealth, its cattle herds that stretched to the horizon, and its owner, a man both feared and admired. They called him Daniel McKenna, a rancher whose fortune had been carved out of grit, sweat, and the kind of determination that broke weaker men. To the world he was powerful, untouchable, and as stern as the land he ruled. But to his two little girls, left motherless when their own mother died of fever, he was just a father who tried his best, even though his heart was heavy with loneliness and worry for them. As Clara reached the gates, her knees buckled beneath her. She dropped the basket on the dirt, the handle breaking under the weight of what little she carried. With shaking hands, she pushed herself upright and looked up at the tall man who had stepped out from the ranch gates. He was broad-shouldered, his hat casting a shadow over sharp eyes, his coat embroidered with the kind of detail that showed wealth but not arrogance. He looked down at her, his expression unreadable, and for a moment she thought he might order her off his land like so many others had done before. Summoning the last of her strength, she clutched her chest and whispered, "Please, sir, I beg you. I'll work for scraps, for a roof over my head. I'll scrub floors, I'll tend to the animals, I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't turn me away." Daniel studied her quietly, his jaw tightening. Behind him, two little girls peeked out, their golden hair catching the sun, their wide eyes staring at the woman in rags who knelt before their father. Clara turned her head and met their gaze, and something in her heart ached so deeply she nearly broke down right there. Those children were about the same age her own would have been had fate been kinder. She forced herself to hold steady to swallow her tears. Daniel finally spoke, his voice deep and slow, carrying the weight of someone who measured every word carefully. "This ranch doesn't need another beggar," he said flatly. Clara's heart cracked, but before she could gather her things, he added, "But my daughters, they need something I can't give them alone." His eyes, which had been hard as stone, softened as he looked at the little girls who still stood behind him, clutching each other's hands. Then his gaze returned to Clara, steady and piercing. "Will you be the mother my girls need?" The world seemed to freeze. Clara's breath caught in her chest. Of all the things she had imagined, this was not one of them. She had asked for work, for scraps, for the bare minimum to survive, but here was a man asking her to take on a role far greater than anything she had dared to hope for. For a moment she wondered if he was testing her, if this was some cruel jest, but the earnestness in his tone told her otherwise. Her lips trembled as she whispered, I don't know if I'm worthy, sir. I've lost everything." Daniel bent slightly, his shadow falling across her as he lowered his voice. "So have I, but maybe together we can give those girls back what was taken from them." Clara's heart pounded as tears finally broke free, streaming down her face. She looked again at the children, two little innocents, staring at her with both curiosity and hope, and something inside her shifted, something she thought had been buried with her husband. She nodded slowly, her voice breaking. "Yes, if you'll have me, I'll do everything in my power to be the mother they need." The girls ran forward then, one of them clutching Clara's hand, the other tugging at her dress as if they had already chosen her. Daniel stood tall again, his expression unreadable to anyone but himself, but in his chest, something heavy seemed to lift for the first time in years. He reached down, offering his hand to the woman who had come to his gates in rags, and as Clara took it, a new chapter of their lives began, not one born of wealth or perfection, but one born of need, of hope, and perhaps, in time, of love. The first weeks at the McKenna Ranch were unlike anything Clara had expected. She had thought perhaps Daniel would treat her as an employee, someone who worked for her keep, but instead he had brought her into the house, into the very heart of the family. The girls, Lily and Sarah, clung to her from the very first day, their laughter filling the halls that had long echoed with silence. At first, Clara struggled with the feeling that she did not belong. The fine wooden furniture, the grand fireplaces, the polished floors, all of it reminded her of what she had lost and what she had never truly known. Yet every time she faltered, the girl's little arms wrapping around her waist gave her courage. Daniel, too, watched her with a quiet intensity, his stern nature tempered by an unspoken gratitude. Clara worked tirelessly. She rose before dawn, cooking meals, tending to the garden, mending clothes, and making sure the girls were never without a kind word or gentle hand. She told them bedtime stories by lantern light, stories of courage, of family, of holding on to hope even when the world seemed cruel. The girls, who had once been shy and withdrawn after losing their mother, began to smile again, to play freely in the fields. And with every smile she coaxed from them, Clara's heart healed a little more. Yet deep within, she carried a fear that Daniel might one day decide she was not enough, that he might send her away once the girls no longer needed her. One evening, as the sky flamed with another Texas sunset, Clara found herself in the barn tending to a wounded foal. Her hands, though worn, moved with a gentleness that calmed the frightened animal. Daniel stood silently in the doorway watching her. After a long moment, he stepped forward, his boots crunching against the straw. "You've done more for this ranch in a month than I could have hoped for in years," he said quietly. Clara looked up, startled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "I've only done what anyone would do," she replied softly. Daniel shook his head, his eyes steady on hers. "No, most would have turned their backs, but you've given my girls their laughter back, and you've given me something I didn't think I'd find again, peace." Clara's throat tightened, words caught in her chest. She wanted to tell him that he had given her just as much, that he had given her a home, a purpose, a reason to rise every morning, but all she managed was a whisper. "I only did what my heart told me was right." Daniel took a step closer then, the distance between them shrinking. His voice dropped low, carrying the weight of his heart. "When I asked you to be their mother, I didn't know if it was fair of me. I didn't know if I was asking too much of a stranger in rags. But I see now it wasn't just them who needed you. I did too." The barn grew still, the only sound the gentle breath of the foal beside them. Clara's tears glimmered in the fading light as she finally understood. This was not just a chance to survive, but a chance to belong, to love, and to be loved again. And in that moment she realized that fate had not abandoned her after all. It had led her here, to this ranch, to this man, and to these children who had become her own. And so, under the wide western sky, the story of Clara and the McKenna family began. Not a story of riches or power, but of healing, second chances, and the unshakable bond of love.